Trading is one of the best ways to get rich quick and still a brain rot. But a lot of people will try to scam you with horrible brain rots that have no demand. Today, I'm going to be showing you guys the brain rots that you definitely want to avoid. And I'm also going to be showing you guys some sleeper brain rots that have a high chance of getting buffed or have a high chance of having more demand in the future. Some of these brain rots on this list are very unexpected. So watch the full video so that you don't get scammed. Starting off is the brain rot that some people just straight up lie about. The Raccoony Jandalini was released months ago and actually had somewhat decent demand back then. But recently, Sammy actually revealed the exist counts, and there were 259,038 that existed. But that was before Sammy re-released it. Sammy released it again, and all you needed were 3 new beanies to craft it. So any value that it had is completely gone. Do not trade for this thing. Now, a brain rot that I do recommend to trade for is the Gengazeli Trulala. It only has 66,000 exists, and Sammy talked about buffing the Centrusi Nuclelusi, which only has 52,000 exists. So if Sammy's thinking of buffing the Centrusi, he might also be thinking of buffing this one too, because they have similar exist counts. A brain rot that Sammy is never going to buff though is the shovel. For some reason, I have people coming in my chat saying, I have a shovel, only 3,000 of them exist, when there's over 1 million.
Stop the cap.
So many people try to scam with this brain rot just because it's pretty old, but just because it's old doesn't mean that it's actually rare. Moving on to the next sleeper brain rot, we got the Jolly Sahur. It came out during Christmas time and you had to spend 5,000 Robux to get it. Now there's only 35,000 that exist, which makes it one of the rarest in the game. But for some reason, I've noticed that not many people are actually trying to trade for this. I actually think that this is worth more than a dragon right now, so if you can, try to trade for it. Alright, some of those brain rots were pretty obvious. I think most people know that the shovel is buns. But now we're going to be moving on to brain rots that you actually think are good, that are trash. First up, we have the Cerebus. For some reason, people absolutely hate this thing. Every time I've been offered one, people in my chat come and say, don't do it, this Cerebus has horrible demand. I'm not even sure why the demand is so bad, but it is. I think it might be because Sammy added to the craft one time, and ever since then it's never recovered. Now the next sleeper pick I'm going to show you guys is a little bit risky, okay? So don't go giving your whole base for it. But we have the Trenso Turbo 4000. I know a lot of people think that this thing is going to get buffed, but we actually have no proof because we don't have an exist count yet. But I want you to think about the last time you've seen this brain rot in the game. I barely see anyone with this thing, so if someone just wants a base Garama or a Kachiru for it, it is definitely worth taking the risk. The next brain rot you've probably been offered 100 times, but it has some of the worst demand in the game, and it's the Burgoro and Fryo. This brain rot is one of the highest money makers in the game, but people absolutely hate on this one. People will trade base Garamas for the burger, even though the burger makes double the amount of money. It doesn't make sense for the demand to be as low as it is, but unfortunately, people just don't like this one. Personally, I think it's stupid that the demand is so low, but that's just how it is. But a brain rot that we all forgot about is the Ketsupot Bros. There's only 7,000 that exist, which is less than the Meow. And unlike the Meow, the exists aren't gonna go up, unless Sammy brings them back for some reason, but I don't think he's going to. You might be able to get an insane trade on this because some people probably just want to get rid of these because they've had them for so long. So if you can get your hands on one of these, you definitely should. But a brain rot you definitely should not try to get is the Le Secret. Now that the fuse machine is gone, the Le Secret is useless again. The only reason it had decent demand a while ago was because of the fuse machine. If you get one of these though, you should hold on to it for the future when Sammy adds another fuse machine. Then you could probably trade it for some profit. One of the rarest brain rots in the game is the Foxini Lanterini. Sammy made it to where you could only get the Fox 3 times during admin abuse. We aren't sure exactly how many of these exist. Sammy said a while ago that it was 25,000, but it might be higher or it might be lower. But regardless, the demand on these is very high. The design is very clean, and every time I have this in my base, I pretty much get offered, or they'll want it as an ad, which shows that it has pretty good value. Now, the next brain rot makes me and other people very mad because the owners of it overprice it crazily. The Hydra Dragon was in the fuse machine for a pretty long time, and it was actually nerfed because Sammy realized that it made too much money for how many existed. But the owners of the Hydra Dragon want you to give them insane overpay, even though we don't know how many exist. You could offer them 2 whole dragons and they'll use that stupid add more button on this sign. Okay, I need to calm down. The fact that Sammy nerfed it shows that people were probably overhyping it, so I recommend being careful when trading for this one. Just know it might be kind of hard to trade. Now, a brain rot that is never hard to trade, I can always trade these away, is the La Casa Boo. Every La Casa Boo I've ever owned has been so easy to trade, and I think it's because the design is so clean and good. Everyone wants one of these, and only 35,000 of these exist, so try to get one of these if you can. These next brain rots are just like the La Casa Boo, but for some reason the demand is terrible. The Rosie and Teddy and the reindeer were also obtained from the lucky blocks, but for whatever reason nobody actually wants these things. I think that is probably because the designs on these are not very cool, which makes people just less interested. Right now the demand on these is pretty low, but it could go up in the future because these are most likely never coming back. But right now at this time, this is not one that you should be trying to get if you're trying to get rich. The next sleeper pick that I'm going to be telling you guys about is probably the best one on this list, and it's the Hydra Bunny. So right now, I'm not saying that the Hydra Bunny has insane demand, but I know that it will in the future. And the reason I say that is because Sammy keeps putting it in as a recipe for the crafts. And Sammy usually only puts really rare brain rots in there for the recipes. For example, he puts in the Antonio a lot, and I've seen Sammy put the Hydra Bunny in there like 3 times. So that tells me that there's not that many of these that exist, which also tells me that in the future, I know that this thing is going to have a lot more value. Okay, now these next brain rots, you guys are going to think that I'm crazy for saying these, but we have every single OG except for the Headless Horseman. So I'm not saying that the demand on these is horrible. The demand is very, very good. But the demand is actually going down on the OGs. Every admin abuse, Sammy's running like 25x luck now. So people are more interested in brain rots that are never going to be coming back. Like the Elefanto Frigo and Antonio. Strawberry Elephants were going for Love Love Bears at one point, which just shows that the demand on these is fluctuating all the time. So to be honest, we're at the point where the OGs aren't the ultimate goal in the game anymore. The ultimate goal is getting stuff like the Signor or the Headless Horseman. Obviously, if somebody wants a Dragon Cannonoli for a Meow, you should obviously take that. I'm not saying that the demand is bad on these. I'm just saying that the demand is going down, okay? And the final sleeper brain rot is the Quackini Snackini. So I was talking about how the OGs that more and more are spawning in, so they're losing value. But the Quackini Snackini only has 5,000 that exist, and no more are going to be spawning in. This makes it one of the rarest brain rots in the game, and I don't think that most people understand how rare this thing really is. So this is actually one of the best brain rots I recommend to trade for, because people do not know the value on this. You can get an insane deal. The final brain rot that you want to avoid is the Prezzo Robo. Now, some of you are probably confused because Sammy said that there's only 500 that exist. But because Sammy said this, everyone is trying to craft one of these things now because they think it's going to be rare in the future. To craft it, you only need a Nyan Cat, which is really easy to get, and a Gingerbread Tank, which might be a little bit harder to find, but there's probably over 100,000 of them. If Sammy would have just stayed quiet, then some people could have made an insane profit. So, if you already crafted one of these, it's probably smart to get a guaranteed good deal now, than hoping in the future that Sammy buffs it. Now, I'm going to be putting you guys onto an insane method to get rich very quickly and steal a brain rot. Even if you're a noob, you can do this, but you have to do it fast before everyone finds out about it. And to do this method, you are going to need the Mi Gatito brain rot. So if you didn't know, you can actually get 2 Mi Gatitos and put them together to start a ritual. And once that ritual starts, as you can see around the world, a whole bunch of cat faces pop up, and all of these brain rots on the runway can get the Mi Gatito trait. And usually the Mi Gatito trait is so difficult to get, so I actually have to trade for quite a lot of these, and I start getting really desperate. I just start giving any brain rot that I have in my base, just because when I was trait farming, I wanted to get my brain rot as good as I possibly could. And every time you do the ritual, 2 Mi Gatitos go missing from the world. So this thing is becoming more and more rare every single admin abuse, which makes us people who trait farm very desperate. It's kind of a messed up thing to do, but if you can get a whole bunch of Mi Gatitos and find people who are trait farming who really need them, you might be able to make some insane profit. If you guys get anything good from this method, comment down below what you got.